Okay, I'm giving you host access level. You can start now. Okay, over to you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good evening. And we'll start with today's session discussing ETL, scheduling workflow jobs, and Databricks. It's fine if you don't know any of these technologies. I'll take it very slow, very easy. And I had asked in the chat if you have some experience with Spark or you have no experience, you can write. So Mr. Kunal here is saying that he's fresher, but study is going on. Okay. So it's fine if you're a fresher. Basically, I will tell you in a way that will make you understand much better. It will be very fruitful for you as well. I'll give you the links and everything to study. Basically, it takes not more than a month to learn all of these tools and technologies. Is there anyone else who is a fresher, or if you are experienced? Okay, Mr. Gautam is saying, I have spent a couple of months learning Spark. That's awesome. Very good initiative, Gautam. So it's good that you have some Spark experience. Okay, so Mr. Anil is saying he's a fresher. Okay. All right. So what we'll do today is we'll be doing. Okay, Mr. Avinash as well is fresher. Okay, no worries. I'll explain in a way which will help you all. Even if you're experienced or fresher, you will get an idea regarding what is the Spark, what is ETL, what is Databricks. So all these three I'll cover today in a more general way, not like completely going into depth. But yeah, in general way, I'll explain what is the Spark framework and how it actually helps us in the big data. So on that note, what is a Spark framework? It's actually an open source distributed framework. So open source means it's free for using big data. If I were to just show you here, we can also have PySpark running on the Colab, which is completely free. I've tried this. I've imported the Spark session and I've done some like read of the data, sample data, and applied some PySpark functions. So if there is a person who is learning learning PySpark, they can. I'll share this notebook with you all. Basically, you can practice PySpark using Colab, which is completely free. Yes, Mr. Tushar is saying we can do in Databricks Community Edition as well. Definitely, you can do that as well. You have the option to do this one or Databricks. Of course, Databricks is much better for sure because it will give you an idea how to how the tool goes, how the tool works, stuff like that. So, and it uses in-memory model. So in-memory model as in there's two things. First is the Hadoop and second is the Spark. Spark is like a framework that has come after Hadoop. So earlier in maybe 5-6 years back when Spark was not in picture, like it came much earlier than that, but not it was not as much popular. Now the popularity has begun. But earlier, when people used to practice or do their big data on Hadoop, it uses the in-disk model. But now the Spark is using in-memory. So memory is obviously faster. You know, the RAM, the data gets stored in the RAM for computation purposes, obviously. And Mr. Gautam is saying, so Colab also works on distributed processing. So basically the PySpark jobs are assigned in the background, but if you really want to do distributed processing, if you have TBs, petabytes of data, I would prefer going with Databricks. But for practice purposes, Colab is okay. And so Spark is having this 3-layer architecture. It's actually kind of similar to Hadoop in a way that it follows the master and slave architecture. So The driver is actually, so imagine there's a cluster over here. Imagine a square on top of it. So there can be multiple types of clusters, either single cluster or multiple clusters. For now, for this demo, I'm just using a single cluster. And Mr. Jayant is asking, can I use a Jupyter notebook for Databricks? Yes, you can. I'm not sure how to basically install the packages and everything. I tried on Jupyter. I was receiving a lot of errors, so I switched to Colab. So that works for me. But if you can try following a YouTube video or an article, for sure, you can do that. And the driver, what it does is it's actually having the code. So this Spark is written in the Scala language, like Hadoop is written in Java, Spark is written in Scala. And the driver, what it does is when it gets the command from user, so let's say you and I, we are submitting a code to Spark, what it will do is the driver will get initiated, and this driver is having the code with so Mr. Rishabh is asking, do we have Scala flavor in Colab? I'm not sure if you can use the magic commands in Colab, but you can try. And nowadays, by looking at the job market, a lot of people are doing code on PySpark instead of Scala because it's mostly having the Python flavor. So if I were you, because I'm also studying the same thing, so I went with PySpark actually. So Mr. Jayant is saying, I have worked on different ETL tools. How different are Databricks? Do we need to know Python? Can we use SQL as well? Yes, Mr. Jayant, you are right. We can use SQL functions inside Databricks. And how Databricks is different, it will just hold on with me for another 10 minutes maybe, and I'll tell you, okay? All right. So what happens is, same thing here. In the Hadoop, there's a yarn, yet another resource negotiator. Here, it's the cluster manager, which will assign the workers or the slaves to the driver, depending on how big the code is. Not the code, actually, how big the demand is. So depending on the demand of the driver, by submitting his code, the cluster manager will assign some workers, and then the driver and worker can communicate together. So imagine that you're working in a company and the driver is the head officer, and this is the manager, and the workers are the people who actually do the work. They're the worker nodes here. So the head officer is asking the manager, giving the manager the code, and the manager is assigning some workers directly to the head officer. So basically, it's in very simple ways. If you have any questions on this, please let me know now, especially the ones who are fresher and having any doubts in this, you can type in the chat. Okay, no questions, or are you still typing, guys? Okay, that's 2 questions. So is there a hardware difference between 3 components, difference between Hadoop and Spark? Okay, very good. So this is what I also faced when I was learning about Spark. So Hadoop actually uses disk for doing its operations. Disk as in hard disk, your hard disk drive. When you purchase a laptop, a commodity laptop, you have 8 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage and some kind of a processor, right? In Spark, what happens is that RAM size actually increases. That RAM size, if you have around 128 gigabytes of RAM, so data goes in that RAM for computation purposes, all of the data. But obviously, one laptop cannot have so much RAM. So that's why this distributed framework comes in picture. So imagine you have a line of laptops, like maybe 5 or 10 having 128 gigabytes of RAM, and the data is getting distributed among those laptops. And I should call them node actually. So those are called nodes, to be very technical with you. So So those nodes are having 128 gigabytes of storage, as in RAM, which is random access memory. And what happens is that the code, when it's submitted to the driver, it actually goes in the cluster manager. The cluster manager will assign how many laptops or nodes we need, and on that, in that way, we can have multiple nodes. So there's a couple of questions. Can I say Spark submit runs inside the driver? Actually, I would just say that the driver takes the code from the user. So the user submits any code in maybe in a Scala, in Python, and the driver then takes in the code, and then the jobs are run. So basically, it depends on what kind of cluster you have. Either it's multi-node or single node. And Mr. Jayant is asking the difference between ADF and Databricks. Both are ETL tools, which are best to learn. I just want to check. Planning to move into the cloud platform. Okay. Okay. Yes, Mr. Jayant, I know this is something also that I've faced, so do not worry. I actually know both of them, and in the past I have done some projects on it. So I'll tell you when the time comes in this session only. I'll let you know. Okay. And Mr. Kunal, can I say Spark Submit runs inside the driver? I'm not sure, but the thing is, architecture goes like this: the user will submit the code, the drivers get initiated, and then the cluster manager comes in place, and then those cluster manager will give driver the worker nodes, and the driver and the worker will communicate after that. So that is it for the framework. It's a very high level. There's a lot of things going on in the background, which I'll share the links for everything. Okay, so do not worry. So this is how this thing here goes. A little bit of architecture picture, the driver program. So see, the program is submitted to the cluster manager, and then the cluster manager will see, okay, as per this program, how many worker nodes I need, right? So the cluster manager will assign the driver back. You see these arrows, they are communicating together now. After the cluster manager is done assigning worker nodes, there can be two, there can be many worker nodes. And in each worker node, there can be many executors. So this is a place where actually the data is, and read and write is going on, and transformations are going on, stuff like that. Okay. And why do we use Spark? It's because scalable. There's two kinds of scalability. One is horizontal, one is vertical. So definitely a very good question for the interview if someone is appearing for it in the data engineering field. So scalable as in I can increase the number of nodes, I can decrease it. I can increase the size of the nodes, as in maybe I'm going from 128 gigabytes of RAM to 512 gigabytes of RAM. So that is this vertical scaling. If I'm increasing the number of nodes, that is horizontal scaling. Can you give some information? So Mr. Gautam is asking, can you give some information on difference between executor and worker nodes? Okay. So basically, executor nodes, executor is something that actually gets assigned by the worker nodes. Executors, so let's say a worker node is having 20, maybe 24 gigabytes of RAM. So if there are 3 executors, those 3 will share this RAM, and executor will be having 8 gigabytes of RAM each. So basically the data distribution goes in here. That is the task of that is the work of the executor. See, there's some tasks going on in the executor, like reading, writing, and some transformations. So everything happens in this executor. So Miss Divya here is asking, can you say the connect of driver and worker node, what information is exchanged between them? Okay. And Mr. Tushar is asking, in worker nodes, we have multiple. Yes, please. Yes, we can have multiple executors in worker nodes. Yeah. So do we have a master node here? Yes. So the master is the driver, Mr. Jayant. Same as in Hadoop, we have a master. Same in here, we have a driver as a master. And there can only be one driver per cluster. There can be many clusters, but there can only be one driver per cluster. And to answer your question, Divya, the connect of driver and worker node, the information that is exchanged, okay. So the driver, what happens after everything is done, the transformations are done, the read and write are done. So the worker node has to give some output, right? So we have to get that output from the worker to the driver so that the driver can then submit it to the user. In a way, like it should make some sense. So we're giving the driver some worker nodes to do some work for driver, and after the work is done, this worker node will communicate back to driver, and the driver submits the result back to user. It's a very good thing that you have a bunch of questions, guys. It's awesome. Is there anything else? I'm loving this.
But this is Tushar here. I mean, just to correct, the driver is for the application. It's not for the cluster. It's for each and every application. Suppose, let's say you are submitting one application. For that particular application, one driver program gets launched. That's the main program. It's not for the complete cluster.
Yes. So yes, I understand. Definitely. And the driver is actually, so I was just telling you about the number of drivers there can be per cluster. So there can only be one driver per cluster. And you're right. I'm sorry, what's your name? I didn't catch it.
This is Tushar.
Tushar? Okay, nice. Very good observation, Tushar. And just one thing more, which I would like to tell is that when launching this application, this cluster manager, what it will do is it will load worker nodes, which is like 2 basically, but we can increase the number of worker nodes as per the configuration. And there's some commands that we can do, but there can only be maximum 8 worker nodes in a cluster per driver, okay? So that is a very astute, very good observation, and thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else, anyone? So Divya is saying, thank you. What information is passed from driver to worker node? Okay. So the result actually, yeah, I'll show you in the demo, Divya. It will be much clearer after that. And the results that are being passed to the worker node from the worker node to the driver, which will effectively go in the architecture. What's going to happen, I'll show you in the demo, okay? And AM gets launched in the driver machine. AM, not sure what is AM here, Tushar. Can you please elaborate? Application master, of course. Yes, definitely. Yes, Mr. Kunal, that is right. Yeah. I'm sorry. It's morning here for me, so I'm just getting my coffee. So Mr. Gautam is saying, who will decide the number of executors in the worker node? Depends on the, when you're making the cluster, that is something that is business related. So the number of executors is something that I'll show you in a second. When I'm creating the cluster, it depends. Yeah, there you go. So Mr. Tushar is correct. Depends on the number of partitions, depends on the partition size, and depends on the business logic actually. So if you have a lot of data, you can have multiple executors, but again, there's a trade-off in the cost. So we have to keep that in mind as well. And if there is no other question, I'll basically move on to this Spark. So why we use Spark? Okay, I'll show you in the demo because I know it's something you guys are having a very good questions. I used to have the same. I used to Google around all the time, and I came up with a bunch of resources while learning all of this. So it's fault tolerant. Why? Because there's something called DAG, DAG, directed acyclic graph, which actually makes a plan. So it's not like when you submit an application and all of a sudden this, this gets assigned and oh, just by a fluke this happens. Actually, and behind this, there's a DAG which is going on. This DAG, what will do is it will plan for like replication, plan for giving the heartbeat signal again back to the driver node. So basically our data should be secure. So that's how the Spark will ensure that your data and your logics and everything is fault tolerant. Same in ETL, like the way you have checkpoints. It's not like checkpoints here exactly, but it's just that if one worker node dies here, let's say this worker node is not working, the cluster manager will take place of that worker node, and cluster manager will do the work of the worker node. And this is what I know. If I'm wrong, can you please correct me? But I think it's the cluster manager will take place of the worker for sure. And polyglot, as in Spark support many languages: Python, Scala, SQL, and Java. So, and the real time, basically we can have real time processing as well in Spark, and batch processing as well. So there's two kinds of processing. Batch, as in if you have like some old data, we can directly input it into Spark and do some processing. Real time, as in we can connect it to event hubs and Kafka for the real time. And it's having a good speed. It's much better than Hadoop for sure, because it uses in-memory computation. And there's very resourceful libraries to use when we're using the Spark. So coming to ETL, ELT. So by the way, you guys are good in this. I'll share everything, the resources where I studied this. Unfortunately, the session is only 1 hour and I need to show you Databricks as well. So there are no questions. I'll move here, but I'll share all the resources, okay? So on that note, ETL or ELT, so this here picture signifies how the things are going. There's two data sources and we are combining them to transform, and then we are loading to target. There's a lot of moving pieces here and there, but this is more of a general picture, how ETL workflow goes. And Mr. Jayant here, who has ETL experience, can agree with me. This is a general idea of how ETL is there to explain to freshers. So coming on to a much complex part here, which is the extraction. So what happens in the ETL, the steps is, the first is the extraction of the data set or the database, or there's actually three things, and I'll tell you this one. Before I explain this slide, I actually want to explain you a little bit about these three here. So in the chat window, I want you to write the differences between these without looking at Google, okay? Because I know you, it's a confusion going around in this. And if you know, that is fantastic. You are ready for the interview. If you know the difference already. If you don't know, that is okay. So take your time, 1 minute. And if you can tell me the difference, that will be very good. So use the chat window. All right. So database, as we all know, they were saying data lake is the place where we get data from different sources. That is great. I think it's the same for database as well. We can get databases from different sources as well. And I'll tell you what is the difference here. So Manish is saying database, real-time data, warehouse, historical data, lake, any type of data. All right, Mr. Manish, and Mukilan is saying database transactional, data warehouse historical, and data lake, all kind of data. And Divya is saying data warehouse is place where the data is transformed. Okay, but we can transform the data inside database as well, Divya. Mr. Jayant is saying data warehouse type of data management system that is designed to support business intelligence. Okay. And Gotham is saying data warehouse transform data and data lake, raw data, database is transactional data. Okay. Excellent. Mr. Gotham and Mr. Manish as well. You guys are very good. Mr. Manish, Mukilan, Divya, Mr. Jayant, Gotham, Mr. Gotham. Yes, so I guess you all know already a little bit about this. I'll just explain one more time because this database is actually, you guys are right. I have this database here. I'm using SQL DB, the SQL database on cloud, the Azure. And this is a database having data table, database and the data table. So I'm just using the select query to get the data. There's Mr. Gautam is saying data warehouse is a bit of structured in some way. Yes, I'll tell you what is a data warehouse. So, so database is, you're right, everyone. It's basically transactional data. You can have referential integrity in this. You can have primary keys and stuff like that in this. And so what is this data warehouse? This data warehouse is actually, imagine the databases having multiple tables, right? Maybe it's a fact table, dimension table, there's a customer, then there's sales, and then there's product. So there may be multiple tables inside the database. So data warehouse is a dump yard for database. Basically, all the tables, rows, and everything, they are stored inside the data warehouse in a way that is not having the referential integrity or anything. It's just that it's a dump house wherein every table in the database is there in the data warehouse. Why do we need data warehouse if we already have the database? Is because the database can only be having some table like product table, order table. In data warehouse, we can combine those two tables and dump it here because we want to store it somewhere. You guys are right. This is the historical data and it is a structured data. Data warehouse is a structured data and it's having all the tables from like combined tables from the database. Now, that is the difference between the data warehouse and database. So Mr. Jayant is saying data lake holds large amount of data, semi-structured. Very good. Yes, Mr. Jayant, you are excellent. Yeah, you're right. Data warehouse, we have facts and dimensions. That is correct. Star and Snowflake model. Okay. Mr. Kunal is saying my understanding was DB OLTP and DW OLAP. Okay. And holds all types of data stored. Am I right? Okay. So, Mr. Kunal, actually, the OLTP and OLAP is OLTP is called the real-time streaming, you know, and the OLAP is the it's called the analytical processing, which is the historical. You're somehow right in this way, but I guess the databases can also store OLAP, if I'm not wrong, right? You can have a database not in a hot way. There's a hot and cool as well, which I'll tell you after some time. But in the database, you can also store OLAP. So Mr. Jayant is saying database, we have normalized data. Exactly. Very good. That is excellent, Mr. Jayant. Denormalized. That is correct. That is the one of the differences between databases and data warehouse, that normalization is here, and denormalized as in this is having duplicate data. To be very, very honest and very, very straightforward about it. It is having all the duplicate data. And what about this data lake then? A bunch of participants have already shared that it contains unstructured data as well. So yes, that is the main difference. This can also have pictures, this can have videos, this can have JSON files, stuff like that, which I'll show you in the demo. That we'll have a demo on this. That there's a data lake that I've made, ADLS. Mr. Jayanth is saying OLTP, online transaction processing real-time data, and OLAP is analytical. That is correct. Yes, that is right. Yeah. So you see on the title, I've written something here, producer and consumer, right? So what is that? So I'll come back to this picture here, the ETL steps. So producer is something that is producing the data. So imagine the first place where you want to extract the data from. So that is called the producer. I'm sorry, someone
Yeah,
is the
well,
one.
Tanvir here. Can you allow me to pitch in? Like, I want to add something here.
Yes, definitely.
Uh,
Yeah.
See, guys, like the data, I'm telling you in a very simple way. Okay. All the many of you have answered. So just I will summarize it. Database is something where your daily day-to-day transaction is getting stored. Okay. In a very simple way. In a simple definition, that is known as database. Okay. Your day-to-day transaction, whatever you have done, what happened in your business. Okay. What Amazon has done transaction today, that will be stored in database. Okay. And that happened through real-time processing and all those things. Okay. Then we have a concept of data warehouse. In data warehouse, we keep the historical data, like the data of last 5 years, data of last 10 years. Okay. So those are known as data warehouse. Now the question is, why we need data warehouse? Because when you have data of last 5 years, 10 years, 2 years, so based on that, you can what I can say, like you can tell something about the business. Like, see, why we are telling that Rahul Dravid as the wall. It is not because of one or two matches he played and we are telling him the wall. No, it is because of his consistency over a period of time. Correct? Why we are telling Sachin Tendulkar as a master blaster? Because over a time we have seen his matches, and based on that we are telling. So similarly, like when you want to purchase a share, so what we will do? You will check the share price over last 6 months and how it has increased and decreased. So that is why we need data warehouse, so that we can understand how our business is performing over year or quarter over quarter. Suppose you have a data of only 1 week. Okay. So can you make any judgment based on that? Tell me. No, you cannot make any judgment. So that is why companies, they need data warehouse where they can store data of last 5 years, 10 years. And when you are attending requirement gathering call with the business stakeholders, this is a must to have question you should ask, that okay, in data warehouse, how many like last 5 years data you want or last 10 years data you want, and accordingly you have to load the data, and that is known as historical load. And to load the historical data, the jobs are different, the jobs are separate. To load the data in database, the jobs are so jobs are the nothing but like piece of code which you run through a scheduler. It can be anything, control M, Redwood, or what is that? I forgot the name of that. Airflow, just to load the data in a very simple way. That is the database and data warehouse. Now, OLTP is online transactional processing, your day-to-day data, where you are storing your day-to-day data, guys. Database or data warehouse?
Database.
Database. So OLTP goes with database. And in data warehouse, why you are loading data in data warehouse? What is the purpose?
For an analytical purpose to
To do
analyze
the
the data.
analysis. Correct. Right now, I told no that based on that you can do some analysis. Correct. Right. Right now, if I am telling you that Tata is a reputed company, you all will agree, right? Because we are seeing for a long time since our childhood days, we are seeing that yes, it is a reputed company. Now, suppose a company has started just last year. So, based on only 1 year performance, you cannot tell it is reputed or not, right? But that is why we need data warehouse. And for that, we have a term of OLAP, online analytical processing, that goes with data warehouse. Okay. Now, then the concept of data lake. It's a new concept for last 5-7 years. It is in the market. Actually, what happened earlier? Suppose I have a business in 10 locations in India, and okay, and I am working. My business is in 10 departments or 15 departments. Currently, suppose I'm interested to publish numbers of only 3-4 departments. Suppose clothing or sports or clothing, sports, or stationery item. Okay, I want to see that how my company is performing. But suppose after 6 months, if I want to know, so suppose if currently if I want to understand the business of my 3 departments only, okay, so I will store the data of 3 departments only. That data I will load into the access layer, and there the Power BI developer, the data analyst, they will show on the report. Correct. Now, suppose after 6 months, if your business stakeholders told you that no, we want the data of other departments as well. So how you will show? If you have not loaded the data, then how you will show? We have faced all these challenges. Okay, the client told us that okay, Tanvir, we want data of these 3 departments only, like real estate, captive ventures, and non-captive ventures. Okay, so what we are doing, we are getting the data of these 3 sectors or 3 departments only from the source team. We are loading in the database, staging layer, integration layer, access layer, and we are publishing the reports to the stakeholders. Everything was fine. Okay, like what happened after 6 months or 1 year, the client came to us. They told that Tanvir, okay, fine, the 3 departments, the numbers what you're showing is good. It is perfect. We are very happy with that. Now we want to understand the other 2 departments as well, that how they are performing for the last 2 years. Now, suppose if I have not loaded the data in my staging table, then how I can show that number? Please tell. Do I have any option? No. If you have not loaded the data, then how you can show? So that is from where the concept of data lake came into picture. Then the companies, they started realizing that no, if you have transaction in 10 departments based out of 10 locations, 15 locations, 20 locations, you have to load data of each and every location, each and every department in your database. That you have to load, sir. Because down the line in future, you never know which department data you want. So that is why data lake, the name lake comes from this only, because in the lake, you don't know the water is coming from which source. Correct? It can be rainwater, it can be coming from some river, it can be drainage water, any other place, right? But that is what the name of data lake, because here you are not defining the data will be coming from what all sources. So here data will be coming from all the possible sources of your business. That's why the name is data lake. Because maybe down the line after 1 year, if your client will tell that no, I want data of that particular department, that particular location as well, then you have the data. Now quickly you can transform it and you can publish that on that report or the Power BI. Correct. So hope that makes sense. Is that clear? That why we have the data lake concept? Any question based on this?
Yes, thank you, Tanvir sir. That makes way more sense for sure.
Okay, fine then. So yeah, Vaibhav, you
I
can.
have one question
Yeah, please tell.
regarding. So the data lake will be having the clean data that has been
No,
cleaned, or
no, that is one of the
my
challenge.
production layer.
No, that is one of the challenge of a data lake, and that is where big data engineers struggle a lot. That is where your expertise will come into picture. Okay, what happened in data lake? You are just dumping data of all the sources. Suppose, take an example. I went for shopping. Okay, I bought some shirt, pant, shoes, some books, and like some. Okay, I bought all those things. I have kept that in my room. Okay. After 2 days again, I went. I have done some shopping. I'm just dumping all those things, whatever I bought here and there in my room. Okay, that is how happened in a particular like boys' room, right? So I'm not arranging it in my wardrobe. So what will happen? After some time, it will take good amount of time for you to arrange all those things. This is what happened in data lake, and this is the challenge, and that is what suggested that okay, good, in data lake you are dumping the data for all the department, all the locations, but please maintain all those things. Please arrange it. Arrange in the sense, please load the data at the particular locations. Keep on cleaning it, because if you will keep on dumping, then after some time it will become very difficult to manage. So net answer is, in data lake you don't have the production data, sir. You don't have the clean data. That is the challenge of in a data lake project, because you're getting data from all the sources. Then you have to keep on cleaning it. You have to segregate the structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data, because if you're not doing all those things, then at the last you will struggle a lot. We have seen all those cases. And when the client will tell you that, okay, I want the data of this particular department, particular location, then ultimately you will be mixing the data of multiple department and multiple location. So at the one place you're getting benefit in data like that, you're getting data of all the sources, all the locations. But if you're not maintaining it, if you're not arranging it, then you will be in trouble. Hope I answered your question, Kunal.
Yes, yes. So you mean to say that if this procedure goes on, then our data lake will be converted into data swam.
Data lake will be converted into
Data swam.
data spam. Sorry, I have not heard of that. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
missing it.
Uh,
Maybe, yeah. I'm not sure about that. Sorry, Kunal. So the net thing
okay.
is that you have to keep on managing it. So yeah, Vaibhav, over to you. Sorry. Please.
Tanvir,
One more doubt, Tanvir.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
So basically, after transforming the data from data lake, do we store again into data warehouse, or like depends
Yes,
on requirement?
I'll get to that here in the project workflow using this slide here. I was
Okay.
about to tell you that, but that's okay. I'll give me
Sure,
like
sure,
another
sure.
5 minutes. I'll tell you. Okay.
Tanvir, I have a question. So let's say when you say you are dumping everything into the data lake, so when the ETL developer or the data engineer, they start the work, they will take the data from the data lake or any other specific source they will again take.
No. When you are dumping data for all the sources, suppose 10 sources, okay, then at that time you have to ask your stakeholders that, okay, right now what number you want us to show on report. It means like what all sources you are interested. Suppose they're telling you, okay, I'm interested in these 3 sources only, then you have to transform the data of those 3 sources only. You are not going to transform the data of the other 7 sources, because right now you don't know exactly what the business wants from the data, what calculations they want formula they are telling you to apply. So if you don't know that, then tell me how you can transform it. So you have to just dump it in the staging way. Okay, you
So
don't have to
yeah,
process it.
yeah, Tanvir. So just to relate, I mean, let's say we have the scoop, right? So by using scoop, let's say whatever the data I need, I can transfer that to SDFS. I can bring to SDFS and then start the work using the Spark framework. Means
Correct.
the okay, then I'm clear then. Transformation. Thank you.
Okay. And this is very high level. I'm telling you, this is a general concept I'm telling you guys. Okay, if you have any specific project requirement, you can connect with me offline. So Weber, very sorry, yeah, you please proceed.
Oh, that's totally fine. It's okay. I mean, the participants, obviously, they were confused. I was not explaining them well. So thank you for jumping in.
No, that's
So-
good. That's good. You please proceed. It's not like you're not explaining well. That's very good. Please proceed. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No worries. And yes, so I was just telling you about the producers and consumers. So there's a very good like discussion on the data lake. I'll get to that. The producer is actually the place where the data is coming from. So it can be from the data lake, data warehouse, database. Anything can be a producer, but who is consuming is the user or maybe the consumers are the processes over here. So these are consuming this producer. So this is just a terminology used in the market nowadays. So if anyone were to ask you this question, producer and consumer, you can tell them that. So producer, any of these three. And the consumer is the user, or even if you are giving it to Databricks for transformation and stuff like that, they are still the consumer. So there was one participant, I think Tushar or Jayant, who were asking where does the data go after the data lake? So basically, this goes in the bronze layer or silver layer or gold layer. I'll tell you about this. So here, everything is unstructured, or in a way that is in a files or something, or in a way that is like image, or maybe we can also have a CSV file in this data lake. And if we have this CSV file, we want to transform it, and we want to change it to a way that is cleaned, that is having some sense. We can make some analysis out of it. So bronze is a layer, you can say it's exactly the same data set uncleaned. After cleaning the data set, doing some transformation on it, like the file that we're talking about, after doing some cleaning, it will go in the silver layer. So silver is again a container inside the ADLS that we can make. I'll show you here. So you can imagine the container name as bronze. This is where the actual data is, the bronze layer. And this kind of container will actually be having just unclean files, right? If I were to create this here, this is having unclean files. We can place our files here. So your question was, if my team or my development environment or production environment is asking me, where is the data, where should I get this data from? So this is the bronze layer, you'll be getting the data from here. You'll be making one more container, silver, which will be having the changed or the cleaned files of this bronze layer. It will go in silver. And the silver file, basically in the silver, you may have many cleaned files, CSV files, JSON files, they get combined here in the silver layer, like a join, and then they are aggregated. And the final result is stored in the gold. So Mr. Gautam is saying it is same as the upstream and downstream. Unfortunately not. This was my question as well. Upstream and downstreams, it's actually the silos, not the architecture here. So I had the same question earlier, but downstream just means analytics team, and upstream means the people who are working on the data, like data engineering team. But here the bronze, silver, and gold is actually different. These are called the layers.
I was telling for the producer and consumer, the upstream and the downstream. Okay. And Mr. Jayant is saying it's similar to Snowflake, silver, bronze, and gold. That is correct. Yes. If you know that tool, the Snowflake or orchestration tool, yes, that is correct. And so let's begin into demo. In some time, I think maybe 5 minutes or something, I'll tell you all about this ETL workflow that I've designed. So by the way, you guys are very good on the ETL part. Do you know how many types of extraction can be there? Like Tanvir sir was just telling us, there's something like loading, there are some steps in loading. There's some steps in extraction. So what are the types of extraction we can do? If anyone knows, please answer. SCD types, that is excellent. Mr. Mukilan, that is correct. Is there anything else we can do in the extraction? So loading is at the end of the process. You can say it's a full extraction or incremental extraction. And yeah, right, Mr. Gautam? So yes, you are right. You are right, Gautam, and you are right, Mukilan. And that is correct. You can either load data in batch, extract data from a source or the producer from the producer in a batch, or you can do it incrementally. So that is the different types of extraction. Now, coming to the server part, this is very obvious why I'm doing this here, but I'll tell you why this JDBC and everything was, like this code here. What it's doing basically is it's making a connection between this server here, the database here, and my notebook here. This is exactly what it's doing. This is a Databricks workflow and Databricks notebook, I mean. And one of the participants here, they were having a doubt in the Databricks, like when we are having a Databricks account or a workspace, what is there, the worker node and all those things. So basically, when you're making Databricks, you have to go through a bunch of things here, like your location, your pricing tier. I just go with the standard because I'm learning, obviously. But for people who are having like businesses, they may go with the premium. And then there's a bunch of things here. But when you are inside the Databricks, this is how it looks like. And if I were to show you the cluster here, so my cluster, this is the first page that you will land on designing the cluster. So my cluster is a single node. It means I'm just working on the driver node. If you have multi-nodes, you will get the option to select the worker nodes as well. So this is just me. I'm using this latest version of Scala here for the Apache Spark in Scala. The runtime version is the latest. And you can see here the node type here. Node type, what is that? It's basically giving me 14 gigabytes of RAM and 4 cores. Cores is something like if I'm doing some work, the work is divided. Someone was asking before, like how the work is divided. It depends on the number of cores. And this obviously here is the terminate activity after some minutes. So that is there. Now, coming back to the extraction. So this is just, you will see, basically it's just like Python. I made an object, assigned some value to it, and then I'm making a URL and assigning all the values to that. And yes, Mr. Kunal, you're right. They are compute resources. That is correct. So what I'm doing right now is basically reading a table from this database. There are different tables from the database. I'm reading one of those inside my Databricks work notebook. So see, I'm making an object and I'm doing this format, and I'm reading actually. First of all, I'll be reading the Databricks, the product table that is in here. So let me show you the product table. Sorry, this is the syntax actually, product, and yeah. Yes. So this is a table that is actually in the database. Why is there a need for me to read this? Is because right now it's in bronze layer, as in the data, the producer is having some empty data. You can see that right here. There are some nulls, there are some columns that I don't need. So all of this is actually in bronze right now. So we will load both of them. So we have two tables. One is the order table, one is the product table. After loading, I'm just displaying this these tables here. And yeah, let me show you from one of my work that I've done earlier. Okay. See, after the extraction, I am just loading the data set here. And these data sets are having many columns. Some of them are clean, some of them are not clean. They're having some issues. And this is the bronze layer as of now. So to get into the silver layer, because that is the workflow, we have to clean the data sets. We have to basically convert them in a way that we can use them for making business logic, business sense. So that's why we'll now transform them. In the chat window, please write transformations techniques that you know that Mr. Tanvir, Tanvir sir as well have explained, if you're one of the students in the ETL classes, how many ways we can transform the data. If you know, please write in the chat. I have used here na.fill function, which is filling out the null values. I have used this filter, keeping necessary columns, and then I'm displaying this. But if you know more transformation techniques, definitely you can apply those, like putting mean instead of filling it with a random value. You can also use mean of the column for transforming. And then after transformation, all of this, yes. So Mr. Tushar is saying technically there are two transformation, wide transformation and narrow transformation. You're absolutely correct, Tushar. So wide transformations and narrow transformations, would you like to tell a little bit more about it in the chat, or you can open your mic?
Yeah, Vaibhav. So normally in the narrow transformation, there is no shuffling is required, because basically your data is going to be executed in the executor, right? So it's on the memory. So when in case of wide transformations, your data need to be shuffled. Let's say you are joining two data frames. So that time both the data frames has to shuffle. And then after the shuffling has been done, then we get some extraction. We get some data out of it after the joining. So the wide transformation is costly because it requires a lot of network bandwidth, because the data is traveling from one node to the other node. So that way you are wasting your resources. We cannot avoid in all the scenarios, but wherever we can avoid, we have to use the narrow transformation, or there are different kind of broadcast join and other kind of the optimization technique that we can use just to avoid the wide transformations.
That is excellent, Tushar. That is great. Actually, there are a lot of freshers who won't relate to the repartition collies and optimization techniques like broadcast joins, adaptive query execution, and stuff like that. So just transformation here, I meant just on the basis of table. So that is correct in a technical way, you are right. But by transformation, I meant you can have maybe a size, you can make a new column from size by multiplying it by 100. And you can multiply weight and size to get another column, stuff like that. But yeah, you're right.
You can do with column, data frame dot with columns, and you can add one more column.
Yes, exactly. Right. So after that, so we just load, and now you guys know what to do in load. There's two kinds of loads: incremental load and batch load. So before loading, you will notice this. I've made this mount, some kind of a mount point. I'll be loading in this mount point only. So there's one very interesting thing. At the top, I've used the JDBC drivers to connect to the SQL server, but I'm not using JDBC drivers here. Do you notice that? That there are no JDBC drivers. I'm just using the source, and there's configs, there's a connection string here. Why is that exactly? If you guys know that, yes, Mr. Kunal has written stages. Yes. This is something that I'll give you in the resources, Mr. Kunal. Definitely it will be helping a lot of participants after they've learned the basics first, but for sure. For now, you can just follow this here. So do you know why I use this mount point here? Why didn't I use this mount point in the extraction? Because this is the last part of our project.
You are connecting to Java to extract the data, and you are putting data on the some kind of a storage location, like S3 or a folder kind of.
Mr. Rishabh, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, Rishabh. That is actually the right answer. That is correct. Over here, I'm using a bunch of credentials like my SQL server, its password and stuff like that. But this is just a SQL server. It's a database. And this one here is actually a data lake. So again, the difference between the database and data lake, I'll go back here and I'll show you. So everything in this data lake is stored inside the containers, and I have this final data that is having all of these files. So when I run this load command, it will give me this part file like it does in Hadoop. Same thing happens here with some extra log files like its success, it was committed, it was started. And this part file is actually having my resultant data set. I'll show you. So you'll see there's nothing like a column over here and nothing like, no columns and stuff like that. Basically, you can include a column here when you're doing transformation. Just for simplicity, I've just used this. What is the abstract of this? What is the meaning of this? Is just that when I am doing all of these transformations like join, cleaning the data set, dropping duplicates, I'm getting from all of these columns, just 2 columns, which is this one here, the product ID and the weight. That's it. This was my business logic. That was it. And the people who have connected with me earlier regarding the Azure Data Factory, they know that we can schedule our jobs same way we can do over here. We can schedule this notebook. It will run every day, every week, or maybe manually we can trigger it. Right now we can also run, but you can see this here. Every week, every month, every hour, every minute, you can give the time here. What is the cluster that you want to use? I'll just use this my cluster, which I just made, and alerts. So basically my email address is already selected here for any kind of alerts. Maybe if there is a failure, I'll get an email from Databricks that my pipeline or my ETL workflow notebook has failed. I can give this as well. So this is how I can schedule the notebook. Maybe every day my table is getting updated and I need something in the container. In this container, I need every day I need something new, a new file, right? So I can run this notebook every day. And there's a lot of things that goes around in the ETL. Obviously, I cannot tell you all of that in this session, but just for basics for freshers and for people who are moving into the background, I think now maybe the best time to ask any questions because it's all done, it's all good. And this is just a basic overall idea, an overview actually. So if you have any questions, guys, yes, okay. So Mr. Mukilan, what I'm going to do is I'll share the resources like this Python notebook. You can practice all of this here. There's a very interesting YouTube channel as well. I'll share that as well. And the best way to learn is to go through the documentation of the Databricks. I'll share that link as well. In this notebook, especially, you will see I've done a lot of transformations like group by, and so this is actions and transformations. If I'm calling an action, all of this gets assigned. This you will only learn when you get to, get your hands dirty in the PySpark. Of course, for sure. Don't need to thank me. It's all good. This is the end of the presentation as well. I'll provide this presentation to Tanvir sir, and he will give it to you. Okay. Is there anything else?
Jayant here, just had a question. Like you were talking about that mount part, right? When extract, transform, and load, during the load time, you have used the mount one. So you are told some reason, right? Why are you doing that in the load one? Not
yes,
initially?
Definitely. Yes.
Can you please repeat that?
Oh, definitely. So the thing is, the data lake is a storage, not a database, right? So we have to basically mount it. The files that are in the ADLS are not something that you can access via JDBC drivers, because the Java development drivers are something that can access the SQL Server database, their data tables. So that is why this is the need. This is especially a way you can mount and get access to this ADLS or the Azure Data Lake storage. You have a mount point here. You can name this anything. So let me show you here.
So since we are using ADLS, so we are doing a mount, right?
Exactly. And let's say we want to load this to another SQL database. We can we can use the JDBC drivers again, right? Just change the table name here.
And just to load it, create
exactly.
Yeah.
So this is the table name here. The VDB is the database name.
Database.
And,
we can just change it and move it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And in the database, I'm just calling some tables here using the JDBC driver. And you will see the table name is right here, sales.lt.product.node.
Yeah. So in this example, we are just doing a full load, right? Nothing
Exactly. I have not shown incremental load here in the project. See, I should not be even showing you my keys here. Just for the demo, I'm showing you. But in projects, what happens is,
we can mask it. Either we can mask it or.
Yes, I mostly go with the key vault here.
Yeah, key vault.
The key vault will store all my keys, and I'll just put the keys inside the code here. So in real-time projects, you can mask or you can use the keys. I've seen most companies they've used keys. I'm not sure why, but you can even encrypt one of the cells here to basically hide everything. That is having.
And just one question, I'm just moving into the cloud. I just have a doubt. So you will create a resources, right? Like example, for when you create a resource, for VM also we create a resource. Similar way for Databricks also you might have created one resource, right?
Yes. So I'll show you that. Resource as an Azure resource, right?
Yeah, Azure resource.
Yes, this is my resource. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the V Databricks. V is like my nickname here. I'm sorry for the spelling. But if I go to the properties here, there's a bunch of stuff here.
Databricks is nothing but one resources, right? Inside an Azure.
Exactly. And if I launch this, it takes me, so it's signing in via the Azure Active Directory. This is the first page of the Databricks. There's a compute layer. I'm having a cluster here. There's a very good interview question on this as well. What is the difference between all-purpose job compute pools? Job compute and pools are different than all-purpose. In all-purpose, you can share it with multiple people. Job compute is, let's say you want to schedule some jobs. Pools is something, let's say you have different SQL pools, Spark Apache pools. You can create those pools here. It's the same as Synapse Analytics. The pools over there, it's same over here.
Okay.
Yes. And there's something like repos, which add a repo. You can connect your Git repository, any Git, maybe GitHub or anything you can connect over here. And you can use that staging. Tanvir sir was just talking about the staging table, the transformation table and stuff like that. So you can do it over here as well. So that is it. Is there any more questions?
And one more thing, in your coding, you're done till only bronze layer, right? You're not gone to silver and gold, right?
So the thing is, that is a very good question. After the cleaning part is done, you can load this data before joining. Before joining your table, load your data inside the silver. So transformations are done. See, after doing all the transformations, before joining, load the data in silver. After the data is in silver, as in the clean data, now in the silver, you can basically join the data and get the aggregate here.
Okay, just avoid the load time, right? First we dump into silver layer, then we do a join transformation.
Exactly. And this is how the process goes here in Canada, at least. I've talked with a bunch of people here on my LinkedIn, and they all said we just dump it. We dump in a container, actually. So what they do is over here, they make containers like bronze, silver. Obviously, they don't call it bronze. They call it something else. But this is how
and it is stored as a file storage, right?
Yes. So basically, files are uploaded here in the form of part files. So the part files gets loaded in the bronze layer here. And then there's one more silver layer, which is having the clean data. And then there's gold, which is having the aggregated data. So the final storage, actually, I've gone directly from bronze to the gold, but you can have a silver in between.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yes. And there is a concept of delta tables as well. which is something advanced. I'll share the links with you. You can read about that. But for now, it's all. This is it.
One more question, Vaibhav.
Yes.
So we can schedule it in Databricks as well, right? And we can also schedule it in ADF as well.
That is correct.
So let us say if I have 2 or 3 notebooks which has dependency, we go with Data Factory. Is that true?
Excellent. Yes, you are very good. What's your name again?
Gautam.
Gotham. Yes. If you have 2, 3 notebooks and if you want to like create a data flow completely, then you have to go with the Azure Data Factory. I think if I were to show you here, so let's click on schedule and
Vaibhav, just sorry to interrupt, Jayant here. Like, can you just give me a small overview, like between Databricks and ADF, Azure Data Factory? I know even that is an ETL tool.
yes, actually it can be used as an ETL tool, but to answer your question, Mr. Gotham, you cannot have multiple notebooks, right? As you can see.
Yeah, only single notebook is allowed, I guess.
Maybe, and just maybe, I'm having the standard account, not the premium. That's why I'm not seeing it. But yes, if you have,
hi, Vaibhav, Mugilan here.
yes.
Yeah, actually, in addition to that, actually, we are able to schedule Databricks notebook as per our concern. Actually, we need to create a separate folder for individual project. Then we can see multiple schedulers here.
Okay. Okay.
And
I didn't know that. Sorry.
actually,
that is awesome.
yeah. And here mostly we have scheduler for a cluster only. But in data factory, there is a pipeline scheduler for it.
Exactly. Yep. You're right. Mr. Mukilan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. You have a very good experience on Databricks, I guess. That's excellent. And you have taught me something today. Thank you so much. Yeah. So as Mr. Mukilan is saying,
Can you repeat again, Mukilan?
yeah, I'm sorry. So as Mr.
Vaibhav, I think you are on mute.
Yes, yes. Cooker is having some whistles in the background. Sorry about that. Okay, so the thing is, difference between the data factory and this Databricks is actually you cannot have the flexibility to create code. You cannot have the flexibility to basically go in the background and do a bunch of stuff.
Like Azure Data Factory, you just drag and drop, right? It's like a kind of an GUI based.
Exactly. So you cannot actually change the worker nodes over there. You cannot optimize. There's not a lot of flexibility. So I have given the session on Data Factory as well. And when I was learning it in my a month or 2 of learning Data Factory, I've seen it does a lot of good things. It's just that if you want to save some cost and space, Data Factory is actually very, very costly. And here you can even run PySpark because it's free. You can run it on Colab. You can do a bunch of stuff here. So yes, is there any other question right now? And there was one more question regarding, I guess I forgot, regarding the mount and the JDBC. Is that clear?
Yeah, that is clear. Like where you use the mount.
Yes, Mr. Mukilan is right here. He's saying Data Factory is used for data migration and integration purposes. And Databricks is for process and transformation. That is excellent. Migration and integration is something we can do with the Data Factory. And the Databricks is for process and transformation. That is correct. So on this note, I think I'm over. Mr. Tanvir sir, if you have something for me, I can stay back here. But I think I'll just share this PPT with you with all the links. So guys, no more questions?
Well, I guess the both are doing good in the market, right? When we compare to Snowflake and Databricks, like even I see that Snowflake also is having bronze, silver, and golden layer. What kind of the same transformation does in Snowflake also, right? Like where we write a SQL query and we schedule with the pipeline and other.
That is correct. Yes. So the way it differentiates is just in the UI, the user interface.
Yeah.
And a lot of tools. So the thing is, there's not one Google, there's also Yahoo, there's a different browsers, right? So basically, the thing is, there's a lot of competition. There's something called Apache Airflow as well, if you've heard about it.
Yeah.
So that as well do some kind of things related to this ETL, and we can do, we can actually do the same things using Synapse. But that is integrated data factory only. But the pools that I was showing you can be done. Yeah. Sorry, Tanvir sir, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like that. I think that was a really good session, and that was interactive as well. So you just take like, if we have any other question, we can continue, or else we can wrap up.
Yes, definitely. I'm gonna share this slide with you, sir, after putting all the links, and you all can go through that through those links. Expand your knowledge on this, because Spark is something that is used in the market nowadays a lot. So for sure, I'll share this with you. Okay. And thank you, Tanvir sir, again for giving the opportunity. And if there is something that you need me for, I can stay in the call.
No, I think that is fine. We can wrap up, not an issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay, thanks.
So until next time, guys, thank you so much again for the for this opportunity, and I'll see you later. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, can you give me the host access?
Yes. Okay. So make host. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye bye.
Thank you, Vaibhav. Thank you, Tanvir.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.